happened around 2018 when I was little. I was about 10 at the time, yet I still remember it and it still makes me very nervous to this day. When I was around 8 years old, I was super into online video games like Club Penguin and Movie Star Planet, but my favorite one was definitely Animal Jam. I would get home from school and get on my laptop to play. Over the years, I got more attached to the game. I started buying merchandise like t-shirts and stuffed animals, and I began watching YouTube videos of people who had also played the game, and I even thought about making videos myself. During my birthday, my mom had gone out shopping for the day, and I went outside to call my dog in when I realized that there was a small box in the front doorstep. It was cardboard and contained two other smaller boxes inside. They were Animal Jam playsets. My mom must have left them there as a surprise for me. I made a mental note to thank her when she got back. I had gotten the Pet Stop Pals and the Club GS sets. I was absolutely ecstatic, and after unboxing and playing with the sets, I ran up to my room to play Animal Jam and get my exclusive items from the codes that came with the toys. After a few minutes of typing and receiving, I noticed that there was something odd about one of the sets. On the box look, someone had crudely drawn the shape of a penguin on the box with a Sharpie. It literally looked like a child had drawn it and just below the Animal Jam logo. I shrugged it off as a set being used before my mom bought it. As I was about to throw it out, I realized that there was something still inside of it, clattering against the cardboard. Out of curiosity, I looked inside and found another little code strip. I must have forgotten it in my excitement to play with it, so I took it out of the box before throwing the box out. I ran up to my room and put the code in the game. Curious about what I would get for this new code, as I entered my room, I could have sworn I saw something pop up on my laptop screen, but I dismissed it. I opened up the code box and typed in the random numbers and letters on it. As I pressed enter, my game suddenly froze. As I clicked my mouse in frustration, my screen suddenly completely shut off before restarting. When I booted up again, the game was already running and I continued on without a problem. I noticed that I hadn't yet gotten anything from the code, so I just thought it was some sort of glitch. I played around as normal, checking shops and parties and browsing trade lists. Suddenly, I got the notification that someone had entered my den. Upon loading in, I saw that there was a player. It was a penguin, and its username was the same as the code I had entered earlier. Its animal name was Major, 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 just Major, all three in a row. And it had no items or patterns. It was just completely black. Had the code done this? I was confused, so I just ignored it, thinking it was some sort of error or a troll or something. I went to play some minigames for a while, and when I returned to my den, the player was gone. I sighed with relief and continued my business. As I did, however, I started noticing the weird penguin player following me everywhere I went. It seemed to hide in strange places around the maps. I almost didn't even notice it until it began to appear closer to my avatar. It was behind the trees in Jamad Township, at the top of the slide in Mount Shavir, beside the mud lake in Appendale, and silently watching me as I browsed the diamond shop. The more I continued to move around, the closer the penguin got to me. And the longer this kept up, I began to notice that the other players around me began to become scarce and just vanish, save for me and my new virtual stalker. Surrounding buildings also began to distort and textures began to glitch. I was beginning to feel genuinely bothered and scared by this. I began going into other servers and other lands in a panic, trying to shake this weird player until I found myself in Jamad Township once again. At this point, all the textures had been messed up and even the music was distorted. Instead of the usual calm and upbeat tune, it played a super slowed down and corrupted version of the Jamad Township theme. There were absolutely zero other players around me. I tried clicking on another server, going to another land, checking my buddy list looking for someone to go to, but it just simply wouldn't give me the option. I would click, but nothing would happen. I didn't want to go into any buildings or shops because I felt like I would be too vulnerable and cornered. There was one place I didn't think to click until I got the notification that someone was in my den. I dreaded the thought, but my hand seemed to move on its own. I clicked the den icon and I loaded into the small grass outside of the small house, but none of my den items were there. It was just a normal, small house den. But all the textures were messed up, like Jama, along with distorted and slowed music. I also noticed that the sky in the background was a night sky instead of the normal blue sky with clouds. I looked outside my window and saw the sun had set, and my mom wouldn't be back for a while. I moved my animal closer to the house. As I did so, I noticed that the strange black penguin was standing in the middle of the floor of the house. As I moved towards the den, more and more errors began to happen, the music turning into a mess of static for a second. I heard footsteps in the background. It took me a second to realize the footsteps weren't coming from my headphones or the game. They were coming from the hallway outside of my door. Had my mom come back early? I continued moving my animal until I heard the footsteps come closer to my bedroom door. I let out a silent scream and jumped up to lock it. When I turned back to my computer, it had shut down completely. I slowly opened my door, and there was nothing until I looked down. There was a small toy or action figure. I looked closer at it. It was the Black Penguin. There wasn't really anything odd about it. It was just a normal figure that had been clumsily painted on with black paint or some sort of ink. I picked it up along with all the other playsets, codes, and toys and tossed them into the fire pit in my backyard. I doused it in lighter fluid and tossed a match into it. I watched as the plastic was reduced down to a black, steaming mess. I kicked dirt over it until the flames died down. The only thing that hadn't burnt completely was the Black Penguin figurine. It was covered in the black and melted plastic that came all over it from the other sets. I threw it into the lake at a nearby park the next day. I never ordered any Animal Jam merchandise again. I never touched my laptop again. Instead, I just used the computers at my local library to do work and play games. But I wouldn't play Animal Jam. I will never play Animal Jam again. I asked my mom where she had gotten the Animal Jam playsets. My heart sank as she replied that she never bought me any. I simply told her that I was talking about something else before heading back up to my room. Thinking about it still scares me to this day. Sometimes I feel like I'm being watched, like something is out there. If you ever find an Animal Jam code with these characters, do not enter the code. WX15TR420. Wait. The penguin figurine is sitting on my desk as I type.